Thank you for tuning in to the Only You podcast. This is your host, Lo Jackson. This is a podcast where I like to do book reviews based on self-help, psychological, behavioral, and personality books that are about depression, about artificial intelligence, how to incorporate new beginnings, how to change, how to develop certain types of criteria to fit the parameters of your life that you're struggling in the most. I think that these books can help someone be led out of the dark and into the light, and that's why I created this podcast, because I felt like I was headed towards the dark at one point in my life, and now I'm headed towards a life of enlightening, a life of enjoyment, and a life that I can really say I'm proud to be living. Today I'm going to be going over a book called Don't Trust Your Gut, using data to get what you really want in life. This book was written by Seth Stephens-Davidowitz. Have you guys ever wondered, is the government really watching me? Am I being, every time I'm using this app, am I being recorded? Am I being watched on my phone? We all have concerns because we've all heard about Vizio TVs recording people in their bedrooms and all this other stuff that people were doing. But there are people out there watching us. There's algorithms recording everything that we do. There are people out there that make billions off of the decisions we make daily. And this is how, I don't know if you ever thought about how Netflix uses big data and analytics to track and get you to come back to them, which, they're on a downfall right now, but believe me, Netflix is a huge hit. They are not going anywhere. I know everybody's like, oh, look at them falling. Well, believe me, during this time of failure, they are ramping up to come back even stronger. I promise that. So how does Netflix use data analytics? They use it by collecting data from their 151 million subscribers. They implement data analytic models to discover customer behaviors and buying patterns. They use the information to recommend movies, TV shows. It's just based on subscribers' preferences. And every time you click inside of their app, they're recording that, and that's a statistic. According to Netflix, over 75% of the viewer activity is based off of personalized recommendations, which I found that to be one of the things with Hulu, Netflix, Amazon, that every time you click, their app has an algorithm to show you new movies and other documentaries and shows based on your clicks. And I think that's kind of a cool idea, because you never know if you click on a documentary, it might lead you to another documentary that puts pieces of a puzzle together that you really needed. Netflix, they also collect several data points to create a detailed profile on every subscriber. The profile is far more detailed than the personas created through conventional marketing. Most significantly, though, I think that Netflix collects customer interactions and response data to a TV show. Netflix knows the time and date a user watches a show, the devices used to watch that show. They know when the show's paused. They know how long the viewer pauses the show, and then they come back and resume the show. And they know if people finish an entire TV show or an entire series. Netflix even has a screenshot or screens people might have viewed repeatedly, and they're taking notes of that. And this is all true information, and you can find this at celerity.com, and it tells you about how Netflix uses big data and analytics to generate billions of dollars based on all your clicks inside of their apps. And it goes on to tell you that Netflix's ability to collect and use data is the reason behind their success. They earn over $1 billion in customer retention because the recommendation system accounts for over 80% of the content streamed on the platform. And that's a pretty big deal, people, we are being watched. Obviously we're in a new era where everything's being recorded, and statisticians are prevalent and They're in every single business in America, corporation. Anybody that is generating over $1 million inside of a company, they are using some sort of data and some form of data collection and statisticians to generate a revenue. I also do a podcast on The Power of Habit by Charles Dugan. And in that book, Charles Dugan actually talks about how Target, the company Target, or Target, if you want to be really fancy. Target used statisticians, and they were the first company to use statisticians. And they talk about in that book that a father came into a Target, was so angry, slammed down this, it was a flyer that had been sent to his house that was promoting baby formula and baby clothes and first-time parents and all this stuff. And he was angry, and he demanded the manager come speak to him. So the manager comes out, and he's like, why in the world would you send this to my house? He's like, my daughter is 13 years old. And the manager, abruptly apologized, was so sorry, was unreal. Well, in reality, 6 months later, that same dad came back in there, asked for the same manager. The manager comes out, and he's like, what can I do for you again? And he's like, well, in reality, I wanted to come and apologize for my ill behavior, because in reality, when my daughter turned 14, she decided to come clean, and she was pregnant at the time. And in reality, all that stuff was set in motion from the first debit cards used through a debit machine. And then once they started using the debit card, they realized that they could make money off of people, so they started asking for people's zip codes. So once they got your zip code, then they knew you were within, a 3 to 5 mile radius of that store. They weren't sure where you were. They don't know your exact location, but they know if they put out a wide enough net of, flyers, that one of their flyers is going to land on your doorstep at some point. And Target was the first company to ever use statisticians to generate a revenue. And did they ever? And everybody, Walmart then started copying what Target was doing. Then Kmart tried to do it, which, obviously Kmart's gone, but Sears tried to do it. Everybody was trying to do it once Target actually, let everybody know that this is what they had done, and this is how they generated billions that year. Seth Isaac Stephens-Davidowitz, he was born September 15th, 1982. He's the author of Don't Trust Your Gut, Using Data to Get What You Really Want in Life. But that is not the only book that he reads. He actually writes another book called Everybody Lies that came out in 2017 that was actually a New York seller's #1 hit. He's an American data scientist, economic entity, author. He is a New York Times opted contributor and former data scientist at Google. So he's definitely very in tune with data, and he uses data in every point of his life, even his relationships with his wife. The confines of their home are under data, and he actually contributes some of this stuff to just being a nerd. That he thinks data is just so overwhelmingly cool. And you can see some graphs on the internet about data, and there are tons of people out there that love the graphs that are built from just recording what people do and getting to know how people's behaviors and habits, contribute to society's liking of certain products or disliking of certain people, and all this other stuff that goes along with data collection. Seth Davidowitz was he went to school at Wharton School. He's a lecturer there in the University of Pennsylvania. He's educated from Stanford University and Harvard. He lives in Englewood, New Jersey. He has published research using Google Trends, as well as data from Wikipedia and Facebook. And all those places and all those companies use data to empower their company to make more money. Davidowitz was born September 15th in Englewood, New Jersey. He was born into a Jewish family. He's the son of Esther Davidowitz and Mitchell Davidowitz. He grew up in Alpine, New Jersey, and attended Tenafly High School. Tenafly graduated in 1999. This guy's actually the same age as me. I'm a little bit older than he is. Kind of cool. But he enrolled in Harvard and received his PhD in economics in 2013. This guy actually has a lot of really great insight. I know I say that about every book I tell you guys about, but this guy really is something different just because he uses data to pretty much run his life, and I find that really interesting. And all the graphs that are in this book are very informative, and he talks a lot about like OkCupid and all these different people's dating habits and how, heterosexuals started dating at one time. And you guys, today I'm doing the book review on Don't Trust Your Gut, Using Data to Get What You Really Want in Life by Seth Stephens-Davidowitz. You can pick this book up at Kindle Store for $19.99. It's at Barnes & Noble for $14.99, Kobo for $14.99, audio books for $11, and obviously I got it at Google Play for $14.95. And I wanted to share with you guys another tidbit about data that recently was put out by Fitbit, which Fitbit is a data collector. It uses your wristwatch, but also Apple and Samsung wristwatches also collect your data. But Fitbit came out with a study that they had done, and it says that they can actually determine when a human's going to contract COVID 2 days before they actually wind up coming down with a fever or any kind of symptoms, just based on their oxygen levels and their heart rate from the Fitbit. And I guess they had done a study that like 99% of people that got COVID, they could actually tell from the data used by their watch to lead the people at Fitbit to let you know that you're actually going to get COVID 2 days before you get it. I find that really wild. And at the beginning of this segment, I talked about how we worry about the government watching us, or, these companies like, when Vizio was reprimanded for recording people in their bedrooms doing stuff and recording families in their family room just because their TV had a camera. And I mean, that was wrong, but there's several different sites that you can get on the internet and read about big data and how it's used by the U.S. government. I want to read you 6 of these ways big data is used by the U.S. government. Barack Obama may have appointed the U.S. government's first ever chief data scientist, DJ Patel, formerly the LinkedIn, eBay, and Skype administration advisor. He has been committed to the use of big data for some time, from pledging to put all government records into the public domain to less commendable initiatives such as mass interception of telecoms data. It is clear that the powers that be of the world's most powerful nation are far from ignorant of the importance of the big data revolution. Last year, a group of White House officials charged specifically by the president to examine the current and potential uses of big data concluded that it presented both great opportunity and great danger. The report stated while big data unquestionably increases the potential of government power to accrue unchecked, it also hold within it solutions that can enhance accountability, privacy, and the rights of citizens. Properly implemented, big data will become a historic driver to progress, helping our nation perpetually the civic and economic dynamicism that has long been its hallmark. The report contains stark warnings about the impact of big data could have on human rights issues, such as use of predictive analysis to deny health care or education to citizens. But overall, it concludes that positive benefits of the technology are or can be greater than any new harms. Certainly, uses are already being found for big data in fields such as healthcare, security, and education, which can potentially have huge positive impacts. And these include the CIA helped to fund Palantir Technologies, which produced analytic software designed to stamp out terrorism by, among things, predicting the location of roadside bombers, and cracked down on cyber fraud by identifying transactions which follow patterns commonly displayed during fraudulent activities. And I actually had the chance that I invested in Palantir Technologies, and when they got big, the IPO instantly sold out all of its shares, and, well, needless to say, my stocks tanked. But I did do all the research before Palantir ever got big, and I knew what they were about. So I thought, well, the government's definitely going to be using them. And I'm not saying that I lost money with that. I didn't. I actually made money, but I got out before it tanked, and I made a little bit of money, honestly. But anyways, number 2 is law enforcement agencies at federal, state, and county levels have access to sophisticated ALPR, which is automated license plate recognition software, which alerts them to anyone in the vicinity with an outstanding warrant. And predictive technologies are used by several police departments to predict flashpoints where crimes may occur, as well as link particular crimes to particular repeated offenders. And unfortunately, that's a type of, they call that profiling or racial profiling. And I mean, yeah, they may say that automated license plate recognition software is really working, but then again, it's also, the police departments also tend to use their powers not correctly when it comes to certain situations with the American public. 3 is the Department of Transportation also uses license plate recognition as well as cameras to monitor the flow of people as they travel by plane, train, and automobile, generating insights as to where infrastructure investment is necessary, as well as predictions about how we are likely to change the way we travel in the future. 4 is in education. Thanks to huge increase in the amount of learning activity carried out online, both in traditional school environments and through distant learning, massive amounts of data about the way we study and learn is becoming available. 5 is the U.S. Department of Agriculture supports the agricultural economy through research and development of new technologies, many of which are big data driven. One recent breakthrough is increasing the yield of dairy herds by identifying bulls most likely to breed high-yielding cows from their genetic record. My cousin actually used to hold that job, that he collected specimens from bulls and they sold it for like $80,000 a pop. I kid you not. Government agencies involved in healthcare, such as the Centers for Disease Control, track the spread of illness using social media. You can see the flow view results reported here in real time, and that's FLU, capital VIEW, and that's a website you can go and check out in real time, the illnesses that are spreading from across, the world from the CDC. Obama himself has been called the big data president by the Washington Post, responsible for launching data.gov and a $200 million investment in big data research and development. And in reality, when Obama did that, that's how we kind of grandfathered in in 2020 the laws surrounding cryptocurrencies and how they're being traded and manipulated by the governments now. And nobody wanted that because it was a way that people were able to trade freely without any governments being involved. And now our government's trying to get involved, but cryptocurrencies worldwide. So some of the things that are laws in the U.S. are not laws outside of here with cryptocurrency. And I just wanted to read that little bit to you about the government, how it kind of uses big data to, it has identified several potential areas that could be infringed or on inappropriate use of data also, including rights of security of personal information and rights to remain anonymous while exercising free speech. And anymore, you see that part right there where it says the secrecy of personal information and the rights to remain anonymous while exercising free speech. That's almost impossible anymore. I feel like free speech has been infringed upon now for the last 5 years more than it ever has. And that's what they're going to be attacking next, I'm pretty sure, because people just say the most craziest things and hurt people any way they can. It's pretty wild in my eyes. Thank you everybody for listening. This is your boy Lo Jackson, and today we're going over Don't Trust Your Gut, Using Data to Get What You Really Want Out of Life by Seth Stephens-Davidowitz. And I want to read a little of this book to you today, and this is chapter 1, the AI marriage, or the artificial intelligent marriage. Whom should you marry? This may be the most consequential decision of a person's life. The billionaire investor Warren Buffett certainly thinks so. He calls whom you marry the most important decision that you make. And yet people have rarely turned to science for help with this all-important decision. Truth be told, science has had little help to offer. Scholars of relationship science have been trying to find answers, but it has proven difficult and expensive to recruit large samples of couples. The studies in this field tended to rely on tiny samples, and different studies often showed conflicting results. In 2007, the distinguished scholar Harry Rees of the University of Rochester compared the field of relationship science to an adolescent, sprawling, at times unruly, and perhaps more mysterious than we might wish. But a few years ago, a young, energetic, uber-curious, and brilliant Canadian scientist, Samantha Joel, aimed to change that. Joel, like so many in her field, was interested in what predicts successful relationships. But she had a noticeably different approach from others. Joel did not merely recruit a new tiny sample of couples. Instead, she joined together data from other already existing studies. Joel reasoned that if she could merge data from the existing small studies, she could have a large data set and have enough data to reliably find what predicts relationship success and what does not. Joel's plan worked. She recruited every professor she could find who has collected data on relationships. Her team ended up including 85 other scientists and was able to build a data set of 11,196 couples. Wow, that's significant, you guys. The size of the data set was impressive. So was the information contained in it. For each couple, Joel and her team of researchers had measures of how happy each partner reported being in their relationship, and they had data on just about anything you could think of to measure about the two people in that relationship. The researchers had data on demographics, age, education, income, and race, physical appearance, how attractive did other people rate each other, sexual tastes, how frequently did each partner want sex, how freaky did they want that sex to be, interest and hobbies, mental and physical health, values, their views on politics, relationships, and child rearing, and much, much more. Further, Joel and her team didn't just have more data than others in the field, they had better statistical methods. Joel and some of the other researchers had mastered machine learning, a subset of artificial intelligence that allows contemporary scholars to detect subtle patterns in large amounts of data. One might call Joel's project the AI marriage, as it was among the first studies to utilize these advanced techniques to try to predict relationship happiness. If you like guessing games, you can try to predict the results. What do you think are the biggest predictors of relationship success? Are common interests more important than common values? How important is sexual compatibility in the long term? Does coming from a similar background as a mate make you happier? After building her team and collecting and analyzing the data, Joel was ready to present the results. Results of likely the most exciting project in history of relationship science. Oh, I'd say so. When I first read this, you guys, I was mind blown at all the data and how much really goes into this stuff. It is beautiful, honestly, if you really look at it. And please, rush out and buy this book. It's $15. You can afford it. Come on. Joel scheduled a talk in October 2019 at the University of Waterloo in Canada with the straightforward title, Can We Help People Pick Better Romantic Partners? So, can Samantha Joel. Teaming up with 85 of the world's most renowned scientists, combining data from 43 different studies, mining hundreds of variables collected from more than 10,000 couples, and utilizing state-of-the-art machine learning models, help people pick better romantic partners? No. Well, duh. The number one and most surprising lesson in the data, Samantha Joel told me in a Zoom interview, is how unpredictable relationships seem to be. Joel and her co-authors found that the demographics, preferences, and values of two people had surprisingly little power in predicting whether those two people were happy in a romantic relationship. And there you have it, folks. Artificial intelligence can now defeat the world's most talented humans at chess and Go. Reliability predicts social unrest 5 days before it happens, merely based on chatter on the internet, and inform people of an emerging health issue such as Parkinson's disease based on the odors they emit, and COVID. But ask artificial intelligence to figure out whether a set of two human beings can build a happy life together, and it is just as clueless as the rest of us. Well, that sure seems like a letdown, as well as a truly horrific start to a chapter in my book with the bold thesis that data science can revolutionize how we make a life decision. Does data science really have nothing to offer us in picking a romantic partner? Perhaps the most important decision that we will face in life? Not quite. In truth, there are important lessons in Joel and her co-author's machine learning project, even if computers' ability to predict romantic success is worse than many of us might have suggested or guessed. For one, while Joel and her team found that the power of all the variables that they had collected to predict a couple's happiness was surprisingly small, they did find a few variables in a mate that at least slightly increased the odds you will be happy with them. More importantly, the surprising difficulty in predicting romantic success has counterintuitive implications for how we should pick romantic partners. And I find this interesting too, because I mean, did they pick deaf partners? Did they pick partners that speak different languages? Because I mean, there's totally wild. It's almost like a Doberman Pinscher and a Chihuahua having babies. And believe me, they're out there. Think about it. Many people certainly believe that many of them variables that Joel and her team studied are important in picking a romantic partner. They compete furiously for partners with certain traits, assuming that these traits will make them happy. If on average, as Joel and her co-authors found, many of the traits that most competed for in the dating market do not correlate with romantic happiness, this suggests that many people are dating wrong. And I think that's true, because I've said in other podcasts, we date and we break up with people to find the one person that we want to spend the rest of our lives with, that we've made an educational decision based on, all the confines of the relationship that make us feel that it's worth going forward with this person, and it takes a lot for one person to, be able to coincide with someone and to really understand their decision making and make their decision part of your decision making, and then you became a team, because everything needs to be reciprocated in a relationship. This brings us to another age-old question that has also recently been attacked with revolutionary new data. How do people pick a romantic partner? In the past few years, other teams of researchers have mined online dating sites, combing through large new data sets on the traits and swipes of tens of thousands of single people to determine what predicts romantic desirability. The findings from the research on romantic desirability, unlike the research on romantic happiness, has been definitive. While data scientists have found that it is surprisingly difficult to detect the qualities in a romantic partners that lead to happiness, data scientists have found it strikingly easy to detect qualities that are catnip in the dating scene. A recent study, in fact, found that not only is it possible to predict with great accuracy whether someone will swipe left or right on a particular person on an online dating site, it is even possible to predict with remarkable accuracy the time it will take for someone to swipe. Because in reality, I've done online dating. I've shared that in my other podcasts, but I mean, sometimes you stop at a person's photo and you're mesmerized. So these apps are recording those stops, but it's also using facial recognition to record that person that you stopped on, so they know when you're going to stop, because, there's only 16 different ways to look in the world. We all have a doppelganger out there. Another way to say all this: good romantic partners are difficult to predict with data. Desired romantic partners are easy to predict with data. And that suggests that many of us are dating all wrong. Next title: what people look for in a partner. The major development in the search for romance in the early part of the 21st century has been the rise of online dating. In 1990, there were 6 predominant ways that people met their spouses. The most frequent way was through friends, followed by as co-workers in bars, through family and school, as neighbors, or in church. In 1994, Kiss.com was founded as the first modern online dating site. 1 year later, Match.com started. Wow, Match.com's been around since 1995, you guys. Is that not incredible? And in 2000, I excitedly set up my profile on JDate, an online Jewish dating site, confident that I had discovered the cool new thing, only to quickly realize that once again, the cool new thing I thought I had found was actually predominantly used by weirdos like myself. However, the use of online dating has since exploded. By 2017, nearly 40% of couples met online, and this number continues to rise every year. And right here in the segment of the book, Seth has included how heterosexual couples have met over time, and there's a graph with all the data, and it's wild, man. It really is, and I'll include that on TikTok and YouTube in my videos. Has online dating been good for people's romantic lives? This is debatable, and many single people complain that the apps and websites lead to disappointing interactions, matches, and dates. Some recent comments on online dating on Quora, the question and answer website, include the following complaints. It is exhausting. A significant number of profiles of very attractive and or flirtatious women are really Nigerian scammers, and there are too many unsolicited pictures of men's anatomy. Oh, agreed. And I mean, you hear about that all the time, about people just like, oh yeah, I want to go out with you or whatever, and then they take it up to a next level. They go to social media, and the first thing they send out is a private picture of their, selves naked. It's like, what in the world? But one effect of online dating is undebatable. It has been an unambiguous gain for scientists who study romance. And it's fair to say that nobody in the field of romantic science complains about the existence of data apps and websites. You see, in the previous century, when the courtship process happened offline, the decisions that single people made were known by a select few and forgotten shortly afterwards. The scientists wanted to know what people looked for in a partner. They basically had one approach to ask them. A groundbreaking 1947 study by Harold T. Christensen did just that. Christensen studied 1,157 students and asked them to rate the importance of 21 traits in a potential romantic partner. The number one single most important trait reported by both men and women was dependable character. And that's something that our generations now are lacking, because of technology, I believe. And that's my own opinion. Right near the bottom for both men and women, the traits they said they cared about least were good looks and good financial prospects. And I would say right now that good looks is the most important thing anybody goes by with online dating. And a lot of people look for, how much money you make, where do you work at, stuff like that, or what kind of car do you drive? Oh yeah, because they want to, fish for what kind of financial outlook they're going to be looking at if they do get with you. But can we trust these self-reports? People have long been known to lie on sensitive topics, which I told you guys, he writes a book. His first book was about lying, that everybody lies. This, in fact, was the theme of my previous book, Everybody Lies. See there? I'm doing Don't Trust Your Gut, Using Data to Get What You Really Want in Life by Seth Stephens-Davidowitz. He's a Jewish author and scientist who studies nothing but data, and he's a real nerd and he loves this stuff. So if I was you, I'd go out and spend the 15 bucks and grab it on your book buying platform out there. Perhaps people don't want to admit just how much they prefer to date people with pleasant faces, skinny waists, and hefty wallets. In this century, researchers have better ways to figure out what people desire in a partner than merely asking them. When such a large percentage of courtships happens on apps and websites, daters' profiles, clicks, and messages can be retained as data. The yays and nays are easily coded to CSV files, and researchers around the world have mined data from OkCupid, eHarmony, Match.com, Hinge, and other matching services to determine how much just about every factor contributes to one's desirability in the dating market. They have quite simply gathered unprecedented insights into what makes a human being desirable to other human beings. And I think that the character part is huge for me. If you got a flawed character, man, I ain't even interested. I want somebody with some grit. Yeah, it's nice to look at you, but man, if you ain't got grit, I'm good. As mentioned, in the introduction, there is some variations in what people find attractive, and daters can sometimes take advantage of this variation by occupying a niche market. However, the traits that make people more attractive on average are predictable. So what traits make people desirable to others? Well, the first truth about that people look for in romantic partners, like so many important truths about life, was expressed by a rock star before the scientists figured it out. As Adam Duritz of the Counting Crows told us in his 1993 masterpiece, Mr. Jones, we are looking for something beautiful. Oh man, dude. And Adam Duritz is a bad dude. You know, he tended bar at the Viper Room on 852 West Sunset Boulevard back in the 90s. He used to attend bar there for Johnny Depp. That was like one of the biggest hangouts. I love Adam Duritz. He's a bad dude, a great songwriter, great guy all the way around. Someone Beautiful, a team of researchers, Gunter J. Hintz, Ali Horsch, and Dan O'Reilly, studied thousands of heterosexual users of an online dating site. Each user of the site included photos, and the researchers recruited and paid a different group of people to rate the attractiveness of every user based on these photos on a scale of 1 to 10. With the help of the 1 to 10 ratings, the researchers had a measure of conventional physical attractiveness for every dater. They could test how much looks influence how desirable someone is. They measured desirability based on how many unsolicited messages a person received and how frequently their messages were responded to. The researchers found that looks matter a lot. Roughly 30% of how well a female heterosexual dater performed on the site could be explained by their looks. Heterosexual women are a little less shallow, but still plenty shallow. About 18% of male heterosexual daters' success could be explained by their looks. Beauty, it turns out, is for both sexes. The most important predictor of how many potential partners message and respond to one's message in online dating. Place that finding in the no duh department as well as in the see, I knew when people told me that looks don't matter, they were really secretly superficial and thus totally and completely full of crap department. Yeah, and on this part of the segment of the book, Seth, he includes he includes two graphs here. Probability that the most attractive men respond to a message from women of various looks ratings. Probability of the most attractive women respond to messages from men of various looks and ratings. Wow, pretty incredible. But in reality, you guys, they're just about the same. I mean, men kind of started after women into like the 28% or 29% textile range, and 61%. Most attractive women have 61% chance of being heard back from. The least attractive women have a 29% chance. And for women, it's least attractive men have a 14% chance, and more attractive men have a 36% chance. Wow. Women are really picky. I think someone tall, this is the next title, Someone Tall. Thank you guys for listening. This is the Only You podcast. This is your boy Lo Jackson. I'm doing Don't Trust Your Gut, Using Data to Get What You Really Want in Life by Seth Stephens-Davidowitz. And the next title is Someone Tall If a Man. The same team of researchers that studied how looks affect daters' desirability also studied how height affected daters' desirability. Each dater on the site reported how tall they were. Well, you guys, like Kevin Hart said, man, what's up with all you tall guys dating all the short women? There ain't no short women out here for me to date, because all the tall guys are taking them. Anyways, back to the book. Once again, the results were stark. A man's height had an enormous impact on how desirable he was to women. The most popular men were 6'3" and 6'4". Such men received 65% more messages than men who were between 5'7" and 5'8". The researchers also studied the effects of income on daters' desirability, which I will discuss shortly. This allowed them to make an interesting comparison between income and height in the dating market. They could ask how much more money a shorter man would have to earn to overcome his height disadvantage. They found that a 6-foot man earning $62,500 per year is on average as desirable as a or as similar as a 5'6" or 5 feet 6 inch tall man who earns $237,500. In other words, those 6 inches of height are worth about $175,000 in salary on the dating market. Wow. And he includes a graph here, and it's called effect of height on dating success. And that's what the, how much money you make and how tall you are and how many times somebody messages back as opposed to how many times they don't. The effect of height on desirability was reversed and far less pronounced for women. Generally, taller women had less success on the dating site. A woman who is 6'3", the research found, could expect to receive 42% fewer messages than a woman that was 5'5". Next title: someone of a desirable race, even if they'd never admit it. Wow, this is interesting. Continuing the theme of superficial factors about a person that play a disturbing role in their success on the dating market, scientists have found significant evidence of racial discrimination in dating. Wow. Christian Reuter, a mathematician who was one of the co-founders of OkCupid, analyzed data from the messages of more than 100 million OkCupid users. He described the results in his fascinating book, Datasets. I'm reading that. I never heard of it, but I did write it down as a note. The 2 extremely disturbing charts below show the reply rates on OkCupid when heterosexual males and females of different races send messages to each other. If race did not influence data decisions, the numbers in the chart would be exactly the same. In other words, a black woman and a white woman sending a message to a white man would have the same chance of getting a reply. Instead, the numbers are very different. A black woman has a 32% chance of getting a reply from a white male. A white woman has a 41% chance of getting a reply. That's terrible, you guys. That's sad. But I will tell you this from an experience I had from about 15 years ago. I received a message from, a black woman, on a dating site, and I had said, I believe I used like, what's up, baby girl? And I remember, man, she came back, was like, hey, I ain't your baby girl, and I thought, whoa, I'm like, and I could feel the tension instantly. And I don't think she was racist. She was just, she didn't want to be called that, but it made me feel like, whoa, we just started talking. Like, how do you expect somebody to keep talking when you instantly come back with, you're questioning my speech? I don't know. I find that very interesting, but it was something race related there. But she had messaged me first, and maybe she wanted to, spark some kind of conversation about whatever she wanted to talk about. But anyways, overall, perhaps the most striking finding in the data is the difficulties African American women face in the dating market. Note the second row of first chart. Men of just about every racial group are less likely to respond to messages from black women. Wow. The second column of the second chart, this should be changing. I think this is changing. I'm hoping this is changing. The second column of the second chart shows how African American women respond to this harsh treatment of men. They become far less picky for just about any group of men sending messages. Black women are the most likely to respond. The dating experience of black women is notably different from that of white males. White males tend to be significantly more likely to have their messages responded to. This is seen in the final row of the second chart, and they in turn become more picky, becoming the least likely to respond to messages from women. This is seen in the first column of the first chart, and I'll include this chart to you guys in my Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube videos for the Only You podcast. Among males, the racial groups that receive the lowest response rates are blacks and Asians. Rutter's charts are blunt. They show the overall response rates of every racial pair, but they do not consider any other differences between the groups that might lead to differences in response rates. Perhaps some of the reason that some racial groups on average perform better or worse in the dating market is that some racial groups earn on average different incomes. Oh, I believe that's true. That has to be true. The 3 scientists tried to correct for these factors. They found that when you take into account these other factors, the bias against Asian men become even more severe. Oh, that's terrible. Since Asian men in the United States have above average incomes, which tends to be attractive to women, though low response rates to their messages is even more striking. The researchers determined that an Asian man would have to earn a staggering $247,000 more in annual income to be as attractive to the average white woman as he would if he were white, or if he was a white male. That's wild. Is that not wild, you guys? Sheesh. We definitely need to be changing that. Oh, and I hope that it is something to do with income, because that's sad as a culture, as humans. That's just sad. And there's no place for that in the world today, just because of skin color. That's terrible. Back to findings in the No Surprise department. Income affects one's desirability in dating, with the biggest effect on males. The three scientists that I'm talking about here have found that all else being equal, if a man increases his earnings from $35,000 to $50,000 to $150,000 to $200,000, he can expect the average woman to be 8.9% more likely to contact him. If a woman's earnings increase by the same amount, she can expect the average man to be 3.9% more likely to contact her. Of course, it is well known that a man with a substantial income can be attractive to heterosexual women. Consider the first line of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife. Or consider the thought from the band Bare Naked Ladies, who are, of course, really men, that if they had $1 million, they'd be able to buy someone's love. Yeah, Chinese the chicken the Chinese chicken. You have a drumstick and your brain starts ticking. Yeah, you guys know that band. Because the effects of wealth on romantic desirability and the efforts men make to earn more money are such cliches, I was actually surprised the effects of income were rather modest. Wow, so it's a racial thing, you guys. Is that not wild? The next title is an enforcer of the laws or helper of other people in trouble if a man. One job matters in the mating market if you're a man. The three scientists had data from their online dating site on the occupation of daters. It turns out that a woman's occupation doesn't impact how many messages she receives when you take into account her physical attractiveness. Yeah, and I totally think that all the way around. I mean, women have it way better than men. And it's sad, though, because it should be the other way around. We should be like birds. You know, the male bird is more beautiful than the female bird. We got brighter colors, you know. I'm just kidding. For men trying to attract women, the story is different. Men who work in certain occupations receive more messages. And this is true taking into account everything else researchers know about them, including their income. Male lawyers, police officers, firefighters, soldiers, and doctors get more messages than men who earn similar incomes, have similar prestigious educations, are equally attractive, and are of the same height. Lawyers would be on average less attractive to women if they were accountants. Interesting. Here is accountants make way more than lawyers, guys, just so you know. Here is the list of occupation, unless they're a lawyer that sues everybody and needs money for all from themselves. Here is the list of occupations ranked from most to least desirable to heterosexual women in online dating sites. And I'll include that in my other platforms. Some years ago, researchers randomly sent messages to online daters with different first names. They didn't include a photo or any other information. And I find that to be pretty awesome. You guys, this is the Only You podcast. I choose books that I feel are going to empower and make somebody way more well-rounded than they were yesterday. And that's what I try to do every day I wake up, is I try to become a better person, better individual. I try to analyze myself each morning. I journal. I keep an idea book next to my bed where I write down inventions that I think could be something, even if they ain't anything. You know, it is a way to exercise your mental mind and your mental muscle. And journaling is very important, but also data research is very important, and recording all your finances. You know, using finance apps to help your money situation get better with your bills and your income. Those are the important things, and there's tons of those out there. Looking for a financial advisor, helping you get better with your money, coaching, a life coach, all those kind of things help us become better people all around. This is the Only You podcast, and this was the book, Don't Trust Your Gut, Using Data to Get What You Really Want in Life by Seth Stephens-Davidowitz, who is a Jewish author and data scientist. He's worked for Google and many, many other well-known data firms that are in our lives every single day, guys. So please rush out and get this book. You can find it for around $15 on all the platforms that I talk about and all my other podcasts. And thank you for tuning in. This is your boy, Lo Jackson. Until next time.